I am sure you might have heard about the function SUMPRODUCT. This function is basically used to multiply two or more arrays and then add the result. However, not many people know this function can do so much more than this standard procedure, and that's the reason I created this tutorial. In this video, I will reveal secrets about this important function, which I am sure will help you at work. So let's get started. Before we get into it, remember that the SUMPRODUCT function can be adapted to many different scenarios to suit your needs. In this example 1, we have different product volumes and the price for each product unit. What we want to do is calculate the total revenue based on this data. So let's start by inserting a helper column where we can make our calculations. Then let's insert the equal sign in cell D5, type B5 representing the volume number, and multiply it by C5 representing the price per unit. Press enter and you get the result $6,000. Now let's expand this to the rest of the rows. We can finally insert the function sum in this cell D11 and use the helper column as the array argument of this function. And when you press enter, you can see total revenues here was $75,000. But what if I told you that you don't need to go through all the steps I just explained to make this calculation? To avoid that, simply use the function SUMPRODUCT. So let's give it a try. Go to cell C11 and insert the SUMPRODUCT function. Here, the argument array1 will be the entire array of volume from B5 to B9. Then the argument array2 will be the entire array of price per unit from C5 to C9. Close brackets, press enter, and we get the same result as before, which is $75,000. This function basically makes all the individual multiplications and then adds the result. This is the standard use of the function SUMPRODUCT, and quite a few Excel users know how to use it. So let's now check a few secrets about this function which most Excel users don't know about. Still in this example, what happens to our calculation when we are missing a data input? For example, let's say that the volume number in the first row is not available. So let's write not available in cell B5 and look what happens to the two functions when you press enter. As you can see, the function sum loses track, but the function SUMPRODUCT automatically adapts. That's because SUMPRODUCT treats text values as 0, and this is the key difference between these functions. Thanks to this quick adaptation, the function SUMPRODUCT is treating the notation not available as 0 and is automatically reducing the revenue calculation by $6,000. Therefore, this function is much more stable than all those steps we took with the function sum. So we can delete this side calculation and make sure you use this second method from now on. The function SUMPRODUCT is also very useful when you need to work with ranges of different dimensions, so let's practice it. In this example 2, we have two products, A and B. Product A costs $6 per unit and product B costs $40 per unit. The volume to be sold for both products are addressed in this range G7 to H9. And as you can see, we have three probability scenarios for these volumes, which are worst case at 10%, base case at 70%, and best case at 20%. What we need to calculate here is the expected revenue based on these scenarios. So normally Excel users would make individual calculations and then use the sum function. For example, let's insert a simple formula in cell G13 where we multiply the volume of product A, which is cell G7, by the price of each unit, which is cell G4. Multiply again by the probability, which is cell F7, and then press enter. The result is $6,000 worth of revenue, and this represents the worst case scenario for product A. The issue here is that we can't just expand the sum function to obtain the rest of the results. Instead, we must waste time adjusting the formula for absolute reference, and only then we are able to get the correct range to perform the sum calculation. Finally, we can make a sum calculation down here to get the total expected revenue, which is $163,000. So how can we save ourselves the trouble of going through all these steps? Well, by using SUMPRODUCT again. Let's eliminate all the side calculation and insert the SUMPRODUCT function in cell H11. The array1 argument will be the entire probability array from F7 to F9. Then we multiply it by this array related to prices for products A and B located in the range G4 to H4. Finally, we multiply it by this array of volume for both products, which is the range G7 to H9. Close brackets, press enter, and we'll get the exact same result in just a few seconds. Something to keep in mind about the SUMPRODUCT function is that it can also be used to identify a specific data point in an array. In this example tree, we have a range of products and a specific criteria. Now I want to count how many products of each type we have in this range. Excel users would normally work with the function COUNTIF, where the argument range is the entire array of products from J5 to J9, and the criteria argument is L5. The result of this function is 2, which is the number of times the product A is found in the range we are working with. But did you know that we can do the same thing with the SUMPRODUCT function? Let's try it. In the cell M5, insert SUMPRODUCT. The array1 argument will be J5 to J9. Then type the equal sign and add cell L5. Close brackets, press enter, and at this stage we got 0 as a result. But why do we get 0 instead of 2? Because, as we saw in example 1, the function SUMPRODUCT treats text values as 0, and this is exactly what is happening here. If we go back to this function, select the arguments and press F9, Excel will confirm these are basically a sequence of text values, true and false, so the result for now is 0. However, with the correct approach, Excel can basically treat these values as 1 and 0. By the way, if this concept is not clear, have a look at my latest video about index and match functions, where I cover this topic in detail. The link is on the description. So, to complete this example, all we must do is turn these text values into numerical values by adding a mathematical operation to the SUMPRODUCT function. But be careful, as this operation needs to be neutral. In other words, it cannot interfere in the logic of the calculation. So, for example, here we can basically insert another pair of brackets to isolate this argument and then multiply this pair of brackets by 1. Press enter, and now the correct result 2 will be displayed. Bear in mind, we could also use other neutral mathematical operations, such as dividing it by 1 or adding a 0. But the most efficient adjustment in terms of calculation speed is by inserting a double minus sign, which is important when you have hundreds of calculations like this in your file. Finally, if we audit this formula again, we can then confirm Excel has now converted the sequence of true and false into a sequence of 1s and 0, and therefore it identified 2 values that meet this criteria. Should we select another product in this drop-down list, the correct result will be returned as well. If you want to share other examples you face at work, or if you have any questions about this topic, please do it in the comments section below. This will help other members of our community as well. Finally, make sure you hit the thumbs up, share this video with your loved ones, and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done it yet. See you in the next video.